Welcome to The Explainer. All right, today we are diving headfirst into a really controversial one. Robert Greene's classic, The 48 Laws of Power. Our mission? To break down its most challenging ideas and really get a handle on the hidden dynamics of human interaction. So let's kick things off with this quote from Machiavelli, which Greene uses to really set the stage. You have to understand, this idea is pretty much the backbone of the entire book. The world of power, it just operates by its own set of rules. And pretending it doesn't, well, that's just dangerous. The first big idea you have to wrap your head around is this. Life, at its core, is a social game of power. And it's a game that is being played constantly, all around you, whether you decide to join in or not. And here's the real kicker. Greene argues that sometimes the people who make the biggest show of being innocent, well, they're often the most skilled players of all. They can use things like morality or piety as a kind of smokescreen to hide what they're really after. So, the key then becomes mastering this kind of two-faced approach. There's a great quote from Napoleon that Greene uses. Place your iron hand inside a velvet glove. It means you have to look like you're following all the polite rules of society, but on the inside, you understand the real and, often ruthless way power actually works. Okay, so once you accept that the world is a game, what's the first step to becoming a master? It's all about controlling how other people see you. Your reputation, your image, think of these as your most important tools. Now, look, this isn't about being fake just for the sake of it. It's about being strategic. Because according to Greene, power hardly ever goes to the people who just lay all their cards on the table. No, it's about controlling the story, presenting a very carefully put-together version of yourself to the world. And this brings us to one of the book's most famous and, frankly, most counterintuitive laws. It sounds totally backwards, right? I mean, aren't you supposed to always put your best foot forward? Greene says no. Appearing way better than everyone else with no obvious flaws? That's actually incredibly dangerous. And here's why. Perfection doesn't really inspire admiration. It breeds envy. And envy, well, it creates these silent enemies, people who will work to undermine you, and you'll never even see it coming. But admitting to a few harmless flaws, that actually makes you seem more human, more relatable. It takes the target off your back. Okay, another huge part of mastering your appearance is getting a handle on the incredible power of just being quiet. You see, your silence makes people nervous. Greene says we're all machines of interpretation. So when you're quiet, people rush to fill that silence. They start guessing what you're thinking, trying to explain you, and in that process, they end up revealing their own intentions and their own weaknesses. So you're mastering your appearance, you're using silence. Where does this all lead? The next level up is mastering the art of indirect influence. Because real, lasting power is almost never won in a head-on fight. Seriously, think about it. Have you ever won an argument, but in the process you could just feel that you'd created some bad blood? The book calls those Pyrrhic victories. You win the battle, but you might just lose the war. So, what's a better way? This story about Michelangelo is the perfect example of Law 9. Win through your actions, never through argument. He didn't argue with the mayor. He didn't try to prove him wrong. He just created the illusion of a change. The mayor saved face, the masterpiece was untouched, and Michelangelo got exactly what he wanted without a single heated word. And that's the double whammy of winning through action. Your point gets across way more effectively, way more elegantly, and you don't create all that resentment that comes from making somebody else feel dumb. Here's another powerful tool for working indirectly: selective honesty. Just one single, well-timed, sincere gesture can completely disarm even the most paranoid person. It lowers their guard, and it creates an opening for you to make your move. All right, this brings us to the final and maybe the most important stage. This isn't about mastering the world around you anymore. This is about mastering the world inside you. This is where real power is built to last. See, at this level, power isn't so much about manipulating other people. It's about developing an almost superhuman level of patience, perspective, and most importantly, self-control. Take Law 35, mastering the art of timing. This is so critical. Rushing around just screams that you're not in control. The true power player, they always seem patient. It's like they know that everything will come their way eventually. They just wait and wait for that perfect moment, and then they strike, and they strike hard. And then there's this great paradox from Law 36. When you desperately chase something, you seem weak, and it just seems to run away from you. But by showing contempt for the things you can't have, by literally ignoring them, you actually get your power back. It's this subtle kind of psychological move that totally unnerves people. And finally, there's Law 47. You have to remember, success can feel like a drug. In that moment of victory, it is so easy to get arrogant, to get overconfident, and push way past your original goal. And what happens? You end up making more enemies than you just defeated. A real power player knows their goal, they hit it, and then they know when to stop. So here's the most important takeaway from all of this. Greene isn't necessarily telling you to go out and do these things. He's presenting them as timeless observations of how people have always acted when they're chasing power. Think of it less as a how-to manual and more as a field guide to the game that's being played all around us. And that really just leaves us with one final thought. Look, these laws are controversial. Some of them are pretty chilling. But whether you agree with them or not, they force you to ask yourself a really fundamental question. Now that you know the rules of the game, how are you going to play?